Using the alphabet template couldn't be simpler. To get started, you'll want to be working on your alphabet background. And you can see here that I have just a basic template of my alphabet. You can either open the layer style panel and choose different colors, simply change the alphabet to any color that you'd like, or you could add gradients or even a pattern overlay. Probably what you'll most likely want to do is use these to coordinate with the kits that you create. You can do that by simply clipping one of your background papers to the alphabet, and here's how you do that. You see I've got my background, and now I'm just going to drag it onto my alphabet layer. Now this alphabet is just a tad larger than a 3600 paper, so you're going to want to drag it out a little bit just to make sure that it covers the entire alphabet. And once you've done that, you simply add a clipping mask by going to this little icon here, clicking it, and then click on Create Clipping Mask, or you could simply right click on the layer and then choose Create Clipping Mask. And now, as you can see, your alphabet takes on the texture and the color of the paper that you've used. Now, one thing that I want to show you is by going here and clicking on View and then Show and then Guides, you'll see that this alphabet has already had some guides applied. I'll do that again. I'll add a background paper so you can see those. Now what these guides are for is for cutting your alphabet using an action. Some of the actions that I've used require you to have your alphabet all outlined and sliced with guides, and then it uses those guides to cut the alphabet into separate files. So if the guides are turned on when you open this file, you simply go to View, Show, and then turn off the guides. Or if you want to see them again, you simply unhide them. Okay, now that we've got our basic alpha applied, you may want to add some of the different styles that come with it. Firstly, you can see here we have borders. And if I turn those on, by simply clicking the layer visibility icon and then opening them up here, there are three different border edges. You've got jagged, scalloped, and torn edges. If I turn on the layer visibility icon, you can see now I have a really nice border or scalloped effect around my edges, and I can use different colors on this to accent it and highlight it, or I can go ahead with a different color or even the same color if that's what I desire, background paper. So now what I'll do is I'll drag my background and it'll be right above the scalloped edge, which is what I want to use, and then again simply make a clipping mask. And now you can see I have a darling scalloped effect with a coordinating accent color made from a different color background paper. You can go ahead now and highlight these two layers and then right click and choose Merge Layers. Now what I want to do is drag this layer above my scalloped edge, and I can add a drop shadow to bring in a little bit more depth, and then I'll click OK. Or you can apply one of the layer styles that come with your alphabet template. Now to use your layer styles, what you'll want to do is duplicate your layer. Don't apply the layer style directly to the alphabet because you'll lose the effect that you've already created. As you can see, it's just going to make the alphabet disappear. So remember, duplicate your alphabet, and then you can go ahead and apply any one of the styles that you choose. Another great effect is to combine the different styles. If you want to use two or more styles, basically what you'll do is duplicate the layer again, and then continue adding different styles, and you'll get a lot of depth and dimension to your alphabet. And this is how you basically create a really quick and simple alphabet. It's darling, and it only took you a couple minutes. All of these different templates are pretty much applied the same way. Now let's say you want to use another one of the effects, such as the polka dots. What you'll do is simply click on the layer visibility icon for your polka dots layer, and then toggle the different layers to open. And you can see here you have an overlay, and what the overlay does, it adds a bit of texture to your polka dots so it won't be so flat. And you can see what that looks like if I toggle that off. Then you have your actual polka dots layer, and then finally a stroke layer. Now if you don't want any of these different effects, you simply toggle it off. If you want to use just the polka dots, you toggle off the overlay, you toggle off the stroke layer, and then you'll have just polka dots on your alphabet. Okay, so to use this effect, you simply drag a different color accent paper. Make sure that you're clicked on the layer that you want to apply the clipping mask to. In this case, I'm going to apply it to the polka dots layer. So then I simply drag my paper, and now I right click and choose Create Clipping Mask. And now you can see that I've created a polka dot layer, and then I can play with the opacity or go inside my layer style effects and choose different blend modes or add a little bit of color or dimension to it. And then for this stroke, you can either, once again, use a different paper of yours to add a clipping mask and give the stroke a different color, or you can simply go in with color overlay and add a different color stroke to it. And then for your overlay, you'll want to go ahead and use yet a different color paper. Since I don't have one open, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this background and then set it to screen. And then I'll go ahead and click on my overlay layer, and then create a clipping mask. Then you'll play with your opacity, and add a little bit of a different effect to it. If you want to add a little bit more texture and dimension, what you can do is go ahead once again to your layer style, or you can see here that I also have layer styles available right here so that you don't have to use the style file. If you are working in a different program that doesn't support Photoshop styles, this is the way you'll want to do it. You'll want to drag this layer up to the very top, and then toggle on your layer visibility, and then simply add the different styles just like that by turning on the layer visibility icon. And you can turn on one or you can turn on all, and you'll add different effects to your. Now this particular style here is style number 5, and you will only get the true effect of this file if you actually duplicate your alphabet and apply this using the layer style. So, as I said, you can add as many of these different layer styles as you like, or you can simply add one, whatever looks best to you and whatever suits your fancy that day. Now, all of these different effects are applied the same way. You can see we have stripes, and you simply change the color, or you just add a clipping mask. Now most of these effects are used the exact same way. There are 2 exceptions, and that is for inside stroke and 3D alpha. Both of these alphas are their own unique template, so they don't exactly follow the original template that you had when you opened your file. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off. Inside stroke is actually a bit wider than the original template. So if you were using a clipping mask, and you had clipped it to your original file, then you tried to use inside stroke, you would see that it overlaps a bit and you would have an outside border that would be black. So if you're using inside stroke, what you want to do is close off all other layers and then create your alpha from the alpha pattern that's found here. So I'll click on alpha, and then I'll right click and choose create clipping mask. And now you can see you have a nice alphabet and it's lined inside with its own stroke. And the difference with this stroke is if you want to have a nice sharp inside stroke but you still want a little bit of the pattern outside the stroke, then that's the reason that you'd want to use this as opposed to the different strokes that you see here. So here we have an inside and an outside stroke. So if I use this, you can see that I've used an outside stroke and placed it on the outer side of my alphabet. Maybe you can't see that so well because it's white. I'll change the color real quickly. So now you see I have an inside stroke and I have an outside stroke. Now this alphabet also comes with an inner stroke, and you cannot see it here because it's beneath the actual pattern. So if I wanted to add these above the original, all I'd simply do is drag this up and place it there. Now you can see the strokes that I'm talking about. So this is your inside stroke. As you can see, it's overtaking the previous inside stroke, so I want to go ahead and turn that off. I'll also turn off the outside stroke since that's not really what I wanted at the time. But you see the effects and how you use them. So if you want one effect to be more prominent or to show on top of an existing effect, you simply change the position that it's in on your layers palette. And you do that easily by just dragging it into position where you'd like it to be. Now, the other effect that I was telling you about that is completely unique to its own self is the 3D alphabet. You can see here that the 3D alphabet is just that. It's three-dimensional, and it does not fit evenly with the original file. So if you want to use the 3D alphabet, you want to make sure that you toggle off all the different layers and effects because none of them will work with this alphabet. It is its own unique file. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on. And now to use your alphabet, first thing you want to do is duplicate it because you're going to need a duplicate to bring in the extra dimension. Just to help you out a little bit, you may want to go ahead and set the duplicate to soft light, or you can simply turn it off while you're working. So let's say I want to use this paper background to create a three-dimensional alphabet. What I'm going to do is right click, create a clipping mask, and then I'm going to change this to overlay. And it's just as simple as that. You have your three-dimensional alphabet, but if you want to bring in a little bit more dimension, you go ahead and toggle on your copy. And you can duplicate it as much depth as you want. That's how much depth you can give it. You can play with your layer modes to create different effects, give it more depth, a little more pop, or whatever you like. But creating a 3D alphabet just got really, really simple for you. And I think that's pretty much everything for using these different templates. They all work pretty much the same way. Oh, I did forget to show you the stitching. But you'll see that's really very simple. Here you have your different stitches. So I'll toggle on my layer visibility and then I'll open up the group, and you can see here all the different stitches are labeled. You have a small stitch, a smaller stitch, a large stitch, etc., double stitch, etc., etc., etc. So if you want to use these stitches, you simply use them as is. You can leave them white, you can change the color, you can add a drop shadow. You can duplicate the layer and add one of the layer styles to give it some dimension. But it's really just that simple. If you have any questions using this alphabet, you can always drop me an email at veronica@iondesign.com. Thank you for purchasing, and I hope you enjoy. Bye-bye.